That would be for the proposed budget public hearing, and if you would like to speak to that when we call it, we'll sign you up. This is just if you have any matter in town that's not on the agenda. If not, then we'll move on to the first public hearing, which is a rezoning request from Randolph Development Group LLC from C2 Conditional Use District to C2 Conditional Zoning District. We need a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Bass.
Good evening. This is a public hearing for proposed rezoning by Randolph Development Group LLC. Proposed to rezone 2.46 acres of vacant undeveloped property off of US 15501 from C2 Conditional Use District to C2 Conditional Zoning District. The property was formerly part of the American Asset Corporation rezoning of a 46.77 acre tract. This property was rezoned from RA2 to C2CU Highway Commercial Conditional Use District on May 13, 2008. This is also a conditional zoning district request, which is our first. It's based on the recently approved text amendment. This is March 2013. The associated site plan is part of the rezoning consideration. And for the board's information, I attached a description provided earlier by David Owens of School of Government on conditional zoning, as well as a copy of the adopted ordinance for your reference. That's in your information packet. Again, the property is located just north of the US 64, US 15501 interchange. It's vacant and undeveloped. To the north, there's vacant property. Slightly to the northeast, Carolina Living and Learning Center. The south, US 64 is Belmont Station Development. The west, across the road highway there, is north of again, vacant undeveloped property. And to the east, also vacant undeveloped property, as well as a single office building on Russet Run, which was zoned O&I in September of 2007. Most recently, there's C2 zoning immediately to the east, totaling 32.48 acres, which was approved on August 27, 2012. I'll briefly go through the analysis with respect to the town's land use plan and future land use map. The property is designated as commercial thoroughfare business and future land use map. Suitability of the proposed zoning district, again, is currently zoned C2CU, which is defined by the description, primarily designated for major highways as commercial areas associated with those larger major arterial highways, and intended to provide retail, office, and service areas. One way to think about this is this proposed rezoning, in essence, is to plan the existing conditions, and that the proposal is now going to be defined by the accompanying site plan as opposed to the existing special use permit that was approved for this conditional rezoning. There's currently a sewer line and water line along US 15501 at this location. No population change associated with this because it's a commercial project. Latest average daily traffic counts provided by NCDOT are approximately 14,000 vehicle trips per day along US 15501 at this location. Some considerations for the board have listed there the following uses, which are allowed by right in the C2 zoning district, but which were prohibited in the earlier conditional rezoning. And also the consideration of annexation requirement of the property should the board choose to rezone. Our recommendation tonight is to conduct this public hearing and solicit public comment, and then refer the application to the planning board for review and recommendation. Any relevant comments from the public hearing will be incorporated into the review process.
Questions from the board?
Mr. Bass,
zoning that occurred that were already overlaid on this property?
I'm suggesting the board should consider that as part of this rezone.
Right, and these are identical to those?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
In the absence of questions, we will call Mr. Bradshaw, who is the only person signed to speak. Assume you're speaking on behalf of the applicant.
Mr. Mayor, my name is Patrick Bradshaw. I practice law at 128 Hillsborough Street in Pittsboro, and I'm here tonight representing Randolph Development Group, and I'd like to introduce you all again to Dr. Bob Stroud and Joe Milliken, who are the owners of Randolph Development Group. You last saw them last summer when this board approved a sewer allocation for this project, which is required before a detailed land development plan. We also have Brian Upton with the Isaacs Group, who's the engineer for the project here tonight. As Mr. Bass pointed out, all of the land that's the subject of this application is already zoned for C2 for highway commercial uses, either as part of a conditional use district and the southernmost quarter of an acre was part of the Chatham Park Investors property that's now owned by my client, and that portion is actually zoned straight C2. So we're proposing to change all of that to nearly 2.5 acres to a conditional zoning district under your new procedure. The land use plan, as Mr. Bass also said, does recommend the use of this property for commercial purposes. This property was part of the American Asset Corporation zoning that was approved by the board in 2008. AAC had 47 acres. This was just a small portion of their project, 2.5 acres on the south side of Russet Run, and the balance of their 47 acres was on the north side of Russet Run Road. That property is now under separate ownership. Chatham Park Investors owns the portion that's north of Russet Run Road, and my clients own only this 2.46 acres. It's not practical for this property to be developed under the AAC special use permit because that permit called for detailed plans for the entire 47 acres, such as wastewater plans, consistent architectural plans, and those kinds of things, which are no longer practical because AAC did not complete its project, and now the property is under separate ownership. This application will allow this 2.46 acres to be developed independently as a conditional zoning district in accordance with the site plan that we submitted to you. The planning board discussed, and Mr. Bass suggested it would be appropriate to exclude some uses that would be allowed in C2 as was done in the AAC special use permit, and that is acceptable to the applicant. The applicant would also agree to a condition that requires annexation of the property. During the review of the site plan by staff and adjacent property owners, one issue has arisen concerning having more than one building on a single lot. And you can see from the site plan that we are proposing a Bojangles restaurant and a secondary building that would likely be used for retail. Section 3.2 of the zoning ordinance does say that you can only have one main building per lot, but it excludes some uses like multifamily development, planned unit developments, MUPDs. I had anticipated that when you all adopted conditional zoning, you might exclude conditional zoning from that requirement as well, but that didn't happen. So, my clients have enough room to create 2 lots to accommodate this site plan. It said that the property is also in the major transportation corridor. And MTC requires a minimum of 2-acre lots. So, to solve this issue, what we would propose is a condition on the approval that would allow phase 2 of the development, which is the secondary building and the associated parking, to be developed only if one of 2 things occurs. Either that the zoning ordinance be amended to allow more than one building per lot in a conditional zoning district, or that the MTC overlay, which requires a 2-acre minimum, be removed from this property. And it's my understanding that Chatham Park Investors is planning to request, or already has requested, that MTC overlay be removed from its property, which is both to the north and south of this small piece. So if that is done, and the MTC overlay remains on my client's 2.5 acres, it will be an island, a small island, that MTC applies to without the MTC applying to the north and the south. Is that a question?
highway onto Russet Run, which is where the driveway is there at the site. We're also providing curb and gutter along the frontages of Russet Run as well as Suttles, as was brought up through the planning board as well as staff review. We're providing stormwater retention and water quality measures that will serve not only Bojangles but also the future retail building if it's ever built out in its entirety. And landscaping, we have town requirements, also preserving a row of trees along 15501 as was initially called out in the original conditional site plan from several years ago. And those are some of the highlights of the site plan. So, any particular questions?
A couple of questions. Mr. Bassett mentioned the water and sewer in the, I guess, in the right of way or in frontage available to the site, but one of the notes on the plan says that it will tie on to a manhole in coordinating with another engineering firm. So, does that manhole exist today?
That manhole does not exist today, and it will be extended up through the site or through the adjacent property where the Bojangles will come to the store.
So it seems reasonable that one of the conditions of approval would be that that is in place and functioning prior to breaking ground.
That's correct.
Because I think at least from my own perspective, I wouldn't start construction without knowing that I've got that connection. And I don't know that the town would like to see you start construction without a viable project.
Yeah, so certainly you made a point that we're cognizant of and need to coordinate the timing of that with Chatham Park investors. And so if we could just say tonight for public hearing purposes that we'd like to have an exchange about timing on that, it certainly is a relevant issue that we want to work to resolve.
The other thing that I think would be appropriate, and this may be another item of discussion, but the road improvements from NC BOC, I think it'd be appropriate that there be a condition that those be approved as well prior to beginning construction.
Yeah, and we will be going through the driveway permitting process.
Yeah. Have you considered having a driveway not off of Russet? Because I know it's coming around the backside, but it does seem that the flow for the drive-through would conceivably work a little bit better in that way. Because I think as it is now, you have to go around the building to get in the queue.
We have considered various locations for the driveway.
Yeah.
And worked through various alternatives within CDOT.
Okay.
And the configuration is to allow basically a lot of stacking room for cars just to prevent any chance of the drive-through traffic interfering with traffic on either Suttles or Russet Run, as well as congesting the parking lot.
The DOT has seen the right in, right out that you're proposing.
They have seen we're working through that with them.
Okay. And we just got a note earlier, or in our package today, that the speed limit is 55 and will remain 55 at that intersection for the foreseeable future. So, I don't know.
That's good,
You know, there's a lot of speed out there, and there's a lot of kids driving to high school as well. So.
And that's part of also why we have the deceleration lane that we're adding on 15 probably.
I've got just some other technical questions, but I hear what you're saying about phase 2, and the plans are unclear as to when phase 2 would occur, and I see the dilemma. But, Mr. Messick, I read the section about multiple buildings on lots, and it seemed to me that the spirit of the conditional zoning could be that a condition be that additional buildings be on a single lot. Because one of the ideas was for flexibility to get development, enhanced development, if you will, by entering into zoning conditions that both parties could agree to for the benefit of the development of the community. So under that guise, do you think it is possible possible to have a condition of the rezoning be that multiple buildings be on single lot?
Well, I think Mr. Bradshaw's solution is better, that the condition just be that they won't build it until such time as it is either determined that the minimum lot size for a major transportation corridor is changed, or that this conditional zoning ordinance is interpreted the way you see fit, or some other alternative. I think that would be a better solution. We can worry about how to change it or interpret it or alter it in the future.
And I think one of your solutions was a text amendment to section 3.2.
Yeah. Were you wanting to offer that through the process now, or when did you want to bring that forward?
I think the way we would pursue that is if it's the sense of the board that that's the preferred way to go, rather than lifting the MTC. And you might want to do both, since there's likely not going to be MTC to both the north and the south later. It doesn't make much sense to have it here. But if it is the will of the board, then it makes sense to amend the ordinance, the conditional zoning provisions, to amend conditional zoning districts from section 3.2. I think that makes sense. It would clarify the ordinance. Seems to me to be in the spirit of conditional zoning as well. And it won't cause any kind of problems for my clients, and I know that's not the town's concern, but they're very eager to proceed with the Bojangles. They have some more flexibility on when to proceed with the second building. So, sure, if this request is approved, then I could come in immediately with a proposal to amend section 3.2.
The site plan would be one of the conditions. So the site plan would have to be amended to remove the second building. Or I guess there could be a condition that it could be constructed if and when one of the two.
That's our proposal, that you would approve it as it is with the condition that phase 2 could only be, construction can only commence on phase 2 if one of those two changes.
Have you thought how that plays with the period of validity for a site plan?
I'm not sure that I've thought that all the way through. The site plan provision says it's good for a year. I think it can be extended for 1 year for a year. So that gives you a 2-year window on a site plan. I think we'd rather be in a position to come back in and request an extension of the site plan than to have to go through the entire reapproval of the site plan process.
Okay. Well, let's move on. The two of the plans don't show detailed design for phase 2. I think, and that's the grading plan. It essentially shows a rough graded, not even a building path for that situation. And if it is a site plan that ultimately gets approved, it seems like it ought to cover all the construction of both phases 1 and 2.
That is correct. I guess not knowing the ultimate footprint, we have a general idea, which is why we mass graded it. But I guess depending on what the demand is, the building size could shrink, which could affect the part that's graded out.
I would think that could be a minor modification to a site plan. So I would suggest we show the full impact of the full design. And if it's going to get smaller, then it's easier to get smaller than to get larger. Some other technical things. This is a high density option, obviously, and you're proposing a sand filter. Ordinance suggests, maybe even demands that it be a wet pond. So I think we should let our engineer weigh in on that.
Yeah, our concern with the wet pond would be just the ultimate drainage area that's going to it, that it would actually have enough area to maintain water.
Right.
That wouldn't evaporate out and just turn into a small area.
Yeah, no, I think they're both effective devices, and they should be interchangeable.
We did have comments from both the town engineer and from Hydrostructures. Was that raised as one of the concerns?
Yeah, it's just more maintenance for the owner, the sand filter. The other thing I noticed that, well, two other things, you're showing a 2-to-1 slope on the downstream face of the dam, which is tough to maintain. If you can get 3-to-1, I think that'll be a lot better, more stable. And also, you don't seem to be providing diffuse flow. And we did adopt riparian buffer standards that require that. We
questions from the floor?
Excuse me if I'm wrong on this zoning and all like this, but are we not just approving the Bojangles first? Is that what we're looking at? Without the second structure?
Mr. Commissioner, we are requesting approval of the site plan that includes both structures, and the uses would be limited to C2 uses, less the ones that are specifically excluded, which are the same ones as were excluded under the 2008 special use permit.
And he's proposing a text amendment to fix the technical glitch that would allow you some flexibility in the plan. That's what.
Hey, I'm all for you. Go right ahead. You know, move on.
Commissioner Baldwin, my question is just, these gentlemen were here last summer. We're real excited that you're moving forward. There was some discussion of the kind of building and other ideas you had. Did you want to say anything for yourself about that? I remember we were talking about your ideas about the way you operate, the kind of buildings you do, and you had some interesting specific things to say then. Perhaps you'd like to remind the board.
Yeah.
It's been a while since you've been back, so.
Yeah. I have sent elevations of the building to the planning committee, and we are proposing, Bojangles basically has two models that's available to us. A stucco and then a brick, which is their deluxe building. We're proposing to build the deluxe building, and in meeting with the planning committee, we offered to work out the covers. I know there's been comments about going Johnny, so we're open to cover the brick, colors of the store to meet what the city requires. We had discussed with the planning board the energy efficient downflow lighting in the parking lot. There'll be no light pollution going off the property. We're going to make the building as green as possible. It's hard to make a restaurant. I'm not sure if there's any lead restaurants. We've done several, we've done several lead projects, but I'm not sure. Restaurants are very hard because there's just so much you can do with them, but we are going as green as we can with this project. And obviously we're working with the Chatham Park Group to make sure that the appearance of this project fits into their development.
Well, I think you can balance things. You can probably send all your grease over here and they can make you feel.
We actually are, our Whitfield stores, which we're doing biodiesel out of our grease. We've got a farmer that uses it to make diesel.
Right.
So, yeah.
So that's all. I just remember you had some real specific comments last time on those lines about the kind of stores you operate, how you're proud of them, so.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We look forward to you coming.
Thank you.
Commissioner Baldwin?
Bradshaw. I just had one quick question. Basically, in reference to the Carolina Living and Learning Center, have you all touched base and discussed some things?
We haven't had a specific discussion with them. We have talked with Tim Smith with Chatham Park Investors, and our property is between 1,300 and 1,400 feet away from them along public road. Chatham Park has all that additional acreage between us and them. And Mr. Smith or his folks have talked to them, I think in person on 2 occasions. And, you know, there have been public hearings on their property that's adjacent. So in recent times, we have not spoken directly to them.
Oh, if you don't mind.
Don't mind at all.
Yeah. And the reason I'm asking that is because, of course, you all know that that is a center for autistic and they are very personally, I'm always concerned about them.
Mr. Bradshaw was correct that we have spoken directly. I haven't, Mr. Smith has met with them on a couple of occasions. I believe also Mr. Bradshaw didn't all go through a process where you invited them to come.
Actually, they were not one of our adjacent.
Oh, that was, you weren't one of the adjacent properties. So we were invited as an adjacent property.
Right.
But we are everything around them and they're aware, to my knowledge, of Bojangles coming, but we are their neighbors.
Yes,
For the
yes.
most part. And we are making sure that we work directly with them and are coming through with some plans really to build transitions into our project from them and working with them. Specific ideas about how to improve their property, gauge roads, things like this to live in. things are gonna change.
Yeah.
We're gonna make it as good as we can out there.
Thank you. And I knew that this property was not that close to Carolina Living and Learning Center. But a lot of times, even if it's not close, those residents there in Park Court are
And
very
that, and that's what we have told, we've suggested that maybe some better roads, some, entry gates, in there, not that we kind of stop gate, but just be acknowledged a little bit. This is not a place for people either, in our project, to go down and disturb people, but also for the people who live there can understand that, kind of, this is where we should stay back. It's not there, but there's got a lot of land back there, and we hope that they make better use of their land actually systems.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is just a minor question, but I wonder what is the process for getting Bojangles on the highway sign to make sure we bring as many people as possible into the highway?
You all experienced that before?
Yeah, we, go through DOT, and the highway signs are allowed 6, vendors per sign, and there is space available. We are not able to contact DOT until actually, once we break ground, we'll contact DOT and we'll apply.
Are there any other questions? If not, then we can take a motion to go out of public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all for hearing us. We'll go to the public hearing as well.